Welcome, everybody, to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. We're going to do things out of order a little bit. We're going to do the national anthem first this time, followed by the invocation. And we will just do things out of order. Improvise, adapt, and overcome, right? So, national anthem by Henry Borbola, Vice President of Sierra Bank, and he will be followed by Christy Eckler with our invocation, Executive Director, National MS Society. And now we welcome Christy Eckler to the stage to give our invocation.
Apologies for tardiness. Got to watch that traffic from the city to the east. Okay, let us pray. In times of uncertainty, let us as Rotarians be as much like you, God, as possible and be a place of refuge and a constant presence of love and support for those experiencing fear, anxiety, and loneliness. Bring peace and healing to those who have lost loved ones or who are dealing with life-threatening illnesses. Please help us come to you for hope and guidance in times of uncertainty. I close with scripture from Matthew 5:42. Learn to share generously what you have with those who ask for help, and don't close your heart to the ones who come to borrow from you. Amen.
Thank you, Christy. I understand about that travel from the east. I do it sometimes. Now you may take your seats, and we'll recite our four-way test. Number 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And now we welcome Ed McLinn, Managing Director, Larkin Addison, to introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Thank you, President Courtney. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'd like to introduce our guests and guest Rotarians today. First, we have Jose J.J. Balderas, who's a guest of Mike Brown. If you would stand so everybody can know who you are. We have Lenitra King, I hope I pronounced it right, a guest of Ty Stimson. Okay. Sally Matson, who's a guest of Lauren Prieur. Hope I pronounced that right. Yeah. Chris Cobbler, who's a guest of former President Carlo Capia. And Alex Jimenez, who's a guest of Greg Carter. Okay. We have a guest Rotarian here with us today, Matt Sylvia, and I hear he's from New Hampshire. Thanks for coming to join us. We also have Dr. Frederick Gooding, who's a professor at TCU, with several of his students here. Dr. Gooding, if you would stand, and then if your students would stand so we can all see who you are. They're all back there. And also, I'd like to welcome everyone that is watching us on Zoom today. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed. And now for the moment some of us wait for, some of us I don't know. Ty has apologized in advance. We welcome Ty Stimson to the stage, Assistant Criminal District Attorney, Tarrant County Criminal District Office, for our newscast.
Thank you very much, President Courtney. Okay, for our newscast, I'm starting to feel as welcome as minorities do in the new Senate District 10 district map that was released. But this isn't about my feelings, it's about the news of the week. So let's start with some international news. Turkish man Beyhan Mutlu joined his neighbors in their search for a 50-year-old man who had gone drinking, then wandered into the woods and disappeared. Much to Mutlu's surprise, he was the missing man the party was seeking. After spending hours with a search party looking for himself, Mutlu not only sought, but ultimately found himself in a forest with volunteers. Police realized the man they were looking for had joined his own search party and gave him a ride home. When asked how he got so drunk and wandered off into the forest, the man said, "My wife said she wanted to talk." It's just the news, Artist Gene Tonic is this week's biggest genius or the biggest crook, depending on how you look at it. Jeans was paid $84,000 by a Danish museum to create modern art. Instead, he sent the museum 2 blank canvases titled, "Take the Money and Run." Inspired by his work, Beto announced he would be running for public office in Texas again. Sorry, I apologize. Northern Ireland is currently going through a clown shortage, according to David Duffy, co-owner of Duffy Circus, who is appealing to people from Northern Ireland to become clowns. According to Mr. Duffy, what makes a good clown is someone who's willing to make themselves vulnerable. He further stated, not everybody likes to be laughed at, but for someone who's a clown, your worst nightmare would be not to be laughed at. It's unknown whether former President Donald Trump has been called back for a second interview. I had to be fair, to balance it out. It's just the news. Turning to financial news this week, a crypto trading hamster performs better than Warren Buffett in the S&P 500. A hamster named Mr. Gox enters one of the 2 tunnels in his cage, which determines whether he will buy or sell. As of Friday, his portfolio is up nearly 20% since he started trading in June, according to his Twitter account. Mr. Gox was performing better than Bitcoin, the NASDAQ 100, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, and the S&P 500. While Mr. Gox's mythology is random at best, it does remind us that where people get their financial advice from is certainly changing. But for those of us with money under the mattress or hidden in a sock drawer, stay strong in the rat race of life. Oh, come on. That had to be one dud. So, let's look at some news across the country. A 10-foot wide house in Boston sold for $1.25 million, known as the Skinny House. And measuring 1,165 square feet, the 2-bedroom, 1-bath home was built in 1890. The legend is that 2 brothers inherited the land sometime around the Civil War. One of them went away to fight and came home to find that the other brother had built a house bigger than his share of the land. So the returning soldier built a skinny house on the remaining space to block off entry into the bigger house. Rumor has it the soldier was the first person to return to war with his land stolen and not his wife. I'm sorry, I apologize. In sports, Gary Patterson was upset at SMU players for attempting to plant the SMU flag in the middle of the field, following the win against the Frogs, which led to assistant coach Jerry Kill being knocked over and concussed. Patterson accused the SMU player of shoving Coach Kill to the ground. After reviewing the video of the incident, the video shows it was actually a TCU player who knocked over Coach Kill. When Peterson was presented with the new information regarding his own player knocking over Coach Kill, Patterson celebrated because it was the first tackle the team made Saturday. I mean, that's for you, Don. In the most unlikely alliance that no one saw coming this week, Senator Ted Cruz expressed his support for a handful of NBA players who defended their position on the coronavirus vaccine, as well as LeBron James, who said he wasn't going to influence any player or teammate one way or the other. Heidi Cruz is still waiting on her husband Ted to provide her with the level of support he has provided to other people under public scrutiny. Yeah, I didn't know how I felt about that one either, but yeah. And last, in culture, Britney Spears will be without her dad. Yeah, I know, I'm ready for it to be over too, but in culture, Britney Spears will be without her dad, James P. Spears' oversight over her finances for the first time since 2008. After a judge ruled the current situation is not tenable, the pop singer alleged that over the years, her father has been abusive and exploitive over her finances. When asked how he managed Britney's finances and affairs, all James Spears could say is, "Oops, I Did it again. I play with your heart, got lost in the game. Oh, baby, baby. Okay. Yeah. Well, now for our weather for the weekend, expect a high of 81 with an 80% chance of rain tomorrow and sunny in the 80s on the Sunday. Y'all have a good weekend.
Good job. Thank you, Ty. You make sure I hear from lots of our members. And now for a few announcements. We will welcome Fred Schmidt, Director of Development Corporate Partnerships with the Tarrant County College District, to present our Tccd Scholarship Awards.
Kristen actually was able to make it. So.
Oh, you know, that's okay.
I love those shoes. Thank you. Those are sharp. All right. Well, first I want to thank you all for attending today, and I also want to say thank you to some special guests. So, TCC Foundation Board Member Janet Hahn is here today. And then our founding Southeast Campus President, Judith Carrier, is here. And I don't know if I see, is Larry, and new Foundation Board Member Larry Anthem is also here. Thank you so much for coming. All right. So I want to start off with a quote today. Alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. There is nothing truer than this quote from Helen Keller. The fact is, we need one another. As I look back on my life so far, I realize it's never been about what position I held, what salary I earned, or which promotion I received that has led to a full and satisfying life. What has mattered is how I showed up for myself and others during the good times and the difficult times like we've all experienced over the last 18 months. On behalf of TCC, I want to give a special thank you to Carol Genovese, I hope I said that right, I probably didn't, Del Rio with the Vincent Genovese Memorial Foundation for her passion and compassion in helping TCC students succeed, and to the Fort Worth Rotary Club, say that fast 4 times, for their matching support to TCC students. Without all of you, the caring and compassionate people of the Fort Worth Rotary Club and Carol Del Rio, we would not make the positive, life-changing impact we do each day. We are all critical to the success and impact of our community. You are what makes this club and community so special. So before I hand it over to our wonderful students who are going to join us and share their stories, I want to thank you for your time, energy, intellect, creativity, and passion for TCC in this community and the students that we all serve together. You are making a difference every single day. And now I have the honor to introduce you to Carol Genovese Del Rio and 3 of the 4 students that received the Vincent Genovese Memorial Foundation / Rotary Scholarship for Fall 2021. Valeria Luna Rodriguez is not in attendance, but I will call Jennifer Gonzalez, Jesse Garcia, and Talon Natrell to the stage.
I'm just excited to be here, and I just excited for the kids to get to introduce themselves and say a little something about themselves. And I'm thankful for the Rotary supporting the Tarrant County College like they do, and that's why I joined Rotary. Anyway, I want them to say something.
Hello, my name is Jesse Garcia. I'm nervous. I don't know what to say, but I guess I'm just going to say is that this is my first year in TCC. I just got out of high school, and this is something I didn't think I would experience. Coming here to the Fort Worth Clubhouse on the 12th floor, never thought I'd be here, and getting a scholarship. This is something extraordinary, to say at least. Let's see what else. Right now in TC, I'm a major in biology. My future plans is to either, once I graduated from TC, to go to school that mainly focuses on marine biology. I want to be in marine biology and help explore the ocean, either as either germs or new species of fish.
How are you guys doing today? My name is Talon Luttrell. I've been in TCC for the spring semester and now the fall semester. I work for Big Daddy's Moving Company. I have probably moved one of your homes, I guarantee you. I've been there for 5 years. Right now I'm in school for small business management and entrepreneurship. One day I look forward to opening up my own moving company, working for myself, and potentially starting a charity to help low-income families get furniture for their homes who cannot afford it. That's pretty much my game plan, and I'm just here for the community. I appreciate everyone here, especially you, for giving us a scholarship, and I look forward to meeting some of you, and have a good day.
I'm Jennifer Gonzalez. This is my second year at TCC. Pretty nervous as well, like Jesse had stated before. I definitely want to say that being here with like the first 20 to 30 minutes, I definitely did make a right path coming to TCC. Before, I initially planned on going to UTA, and for some reason, my intuition was telling me not to go down that path because I felt like TCC was the more affordable path for me, first of all. And I feel like that they had more options and opportunities like this. So I'm really, really, really grateful that I did decide to go to TCC. I am majoring in health sciences to become a nutritionist. So after I obtain my associates in TCC, I'm gonna transfer to Texas Women's University. And then after, sorry, I'm so nervous. After I go to TWU, I plan on doing my education in Arizona at the Nutritional Clinical Studies of Southwestern. I think that's like a program that I looked into because it's basically for nutrition, like nutritional clinical studies. That's what I want to do. So after that, that's what I plan to become a nutritionist and build her own business and help others in their lifestyle decisions. So yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for sharing your story. Please know that you have this whole room and individuals at TCC and in the community that believe in you. Your thoughts and ideas matter. Don't give up. Keep pursuing your dreams no matter what, and then have that servant's heart that you talked about, and you will change the world. So I just truly appreciate that you truly are pursuing your dreams and what you're wanting to do. And thank you to you. Without your passion and compassion to help others, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you so much. And then without you all matching. In closing, I'm just going to leave this, and then I know we want to get a picture. I just want to say the fullness of your passion, actions, and behaviors towards others affects your family, your workplace, your community, and the world at large. Let your hearts and minds be certain that your role for TCC and this community and these students is critical to the good of many. All of you have the power to change the world. Thank you. Are you getting a picture, Fred? Do we want to go out in front? Would that be better than...
congratulations to each of you. I actually started my educational journey at a community college as well, and went on to get a scholarship to SMU, and now I'm here, so I expect you to be here in a few years. So I expect to see all of y'all back one day as Rotarians. Now we welcome to the stage our Secretary, Rebecca Montgomery, Principal Montgomery GR, for a second reading and a vote.
Thank you, Madam President. And also, I have to admit, also, happily a TCC alum. Nice to be here. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. We welcome all of our special guests. Thank you for being here. And again, congratulations to all of our TCC scholarship recipients. We're so proud of you. Today, we have one second reading. The following proposed new member was submitted during the September 24th program. Our proposed new member is Will Northern. Classification, real estate, commercial property management. Will is a partner and broker with Northern Crane Realty. Proposer was John Loudenslager. I move his election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
Second. All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, the ayes have it. Thank you. And now we have a new member intro. We welcome to the stage her proposer is Michelle Krim to come and introduce our new member. Bliss, come on up too.
Well, hey friends, it is so cool and such a joy to be able to introduce Bliss, who doesn't horse around when it comes to her commitment to nonprofit work. She is passionate and dedicated and a little bit feisty about nonprofit work, especially her focus on women empowerment. Now, I've known Bliss for several years now and had the pleasure of working with her recently. So please join me in a Snoopy happy dance to welcome Bliss to our club.
Thank you all so much. It is such an honor to be part of this amazing membership. They said to keep it short, so I'll start. In 1981, I'm just kidding, I'm kidding. I have spent like Michelle said, I have spent my career in nonprofit social services. I've always had a heart to help people, and I'm very proud to be the president and CEO of the Women's Business Council, where I can continue helping women-owned businesses to thrive and grow their business. And I'm so honored to be part of this membership. I look around the room and there's so many amazing people here, and I can't wait to meet everyone and get to know you. And like we say at the Women's Business Council, you lift as you climb. So I look forward to just working with everyone here, and the play on words over there with Michelle and the pun. My interesting fact is when I'm not working at the Women's Business Council, I am a barrel racer in the evenings and weekends. So I have a ranch with horses and miniature donkeys and miniature horses, and yeah, I turn and burn the cans. How many horses do you have now? I do not want to say how many horses I own. It keeps growing. Right now, 5 horses, a Mustang, 2 miniature horses, and 2 donkeys. So yeah, it's an interesting fact. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, we love feisty members here at Rotary. Some are feistier than others. So now we welcome our chairperson of the day, Dr. Joe Michaels, Managing Partner, Solomon Bruce Consulting, to introduce our program for the day.
Thank you, Madam President. It is indeed a privilege and honor today for several different reasons. Dr. Gooding and his students from TCU, we're certainly glad to have all of them here with us. These look like all future Rotaractors, and I asked somebody to get me the list of the names, and we'll get it to our president, our Rotaract president, to be able to share and contact them. Point 2 is I too started out 100 years ago in the community college, and after 2 years I matriculated further on and kept on going. So we're glad that all of the community college folks are here today, and you just keep going. Our program today is on polio. As most of you are aware, polio is one of the key points of Rotary. We've been working with polio for a long time, and I think we're almost eradicated throughout the world in polio. Our presentation today is by John Bullock. John is our district polio chair. He is a member of the Rotary Club of Colleyville for the past 13 years and 8 months. John has traveled to Mexico, Costa Rica, and the Dominican Republic, taking wheelchairs to those various countries to be able to help in polio. It is my privilege and pleasure to present our speaker, John Bullock. John?
Well, hi, everybody. This is something that I love to do. The reason I like it so much is the story of polio and the story of Rotary's fight against polio is one of the great success stories in the history of the world. I look better in that picture than I do in person, don't I? Oh, well. Back in the 1980s, when Rotary started its fight against polio, polio was all over the world. We had almost 1,000 new cases of polio every day. There were 350,000 cases of polio spread across 125 countries. Today, as of September 2021, there have been a total of 2 cases of wild polio in the world. Now, one of those, and it's in a challenging part of the world. One of those cases is in Pakistan, and the other is in Afghanistan. Now, this has been a great success story, and I can just, I can tell what you're thinking. It's crazy. I can hear your thoughts. You're thinking, gosh, I want to make sure that I am a part of this and that our club is a part of it. So don't worry, I'm fixing to tell you how you can do that. Today, we're going to talk about Rotary's fight against polio and why it's such a big deal. We're going to talk a little bit about our fundraising goals and how you and your club can help. And finally, we're going to talk about the Crazy Kicker bike ride on October 16th. So first of all, when I started giving this talk, people would see that picture of a virus and they'd say, ooh, gosh, I've never seen anything like that before. Well, everybody sees a picture like that on the news almost every night. Like the coronavirus, polio is a virus. But there are some important differences. Coronavirus, of course, attacks your respiratory system. Polio, on the other hand, you usually catch polio. The most common method is through unclean water, unsanitized water, sometimes through food. But you actually ingest polio by mouth is the way you usually catch it. Once polio gets inside of you, it attacks your central nervous system. It attacks your muscles. So sometimes people who get polio are unable to walk. Just show of hands, how many here have known someone in their life that had polio? Okay, and one thing you'll notice is almost everybody that raised their hand, not everybody has gray hair. Okay, and that's because not everybody, I said not everybody. But what we're going to see is polio has actually been eradicated in the United States for quite some time. An important difference between polio and coronavirus is that polio primarily affects children 5 years of age and under. Now, it doesn't always impact children, and as we're going to see in a minute, probably the most famous victim of polio acquired polio as an adult. But one of the, greatest opportunities I've had as a Rotarian, in 2015, I went to India. And here in the United States, if you want to get your child immunized against polio or anything, it's very simple. You just call up the doctor, make an appointment, go in, it's done. But if you think about it, a lot of countries, they don't have that many doctors. The doctors don't have the vaccine. And by the way, the people have no way to get to the doctor anyway. So in India, the country puts on what is called a National Immunization Day. And that's exactly what it says. On a particular day, our goal is to vaccinate all of the children under 5. Now, India really divides it into 5 different days, 5 different programs, but your goal is to immunize literally millions of children, 200 million children in one day. And it's an amazing experience. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something you probably didn't know. So when you go home today, you say, I learned one thing. When I was in India, of course, a lot of times children don't speak English, and you don't know how old they are. You know, little kids, like their head is proportionally bigger, you know, than their body, you know. Well, for a kid that's 5 years of age or under, if you ask them to reach over their head and touch their ear, a lot of them can't do it. So if you're 5 or under, you probably can't do that because your head's too big. And that's one way I can see some of y'all are doing it. Yeah, that always happens. But that's one way to find out if a kid is 5 years of age or under. Just ask them to reach over their head and touch their... So now you learned something, see? Let's see, another important difference, well, an important thing the same is polio is preventable with vaccines, just like the coronavirus. And of course, the vaccine is what makes Rotary's program to eradicate polio possible. When I went to India in 2015, this is a gentleman that I met. And some of y'all have known people with polio. He was paralyzed as a young man, and his legs will always be paralyzed. There's not a cure for polio, so there's no way that this gentleman is going to be turned around and be able to walk again. Polio can be prevented, but it can't be cured. Another thing that some of y'all might recognize, in some cases, polio attacks the muscles that allow you to breathe. And when that happens, people would have to be in a device called an iron lung. Now, this is a picture that was taken in an iron lung ward in Los Angeles, but as you can see, it's full of iron lungs. Once someone was in an iron lung, they really, they could get out periodically. They didn't have to spend 24 hours a day in it. But for the most part, that was the rest of their life. They were going to have to be in their iron lung a significant portion of their lives. Polio really peaked for some reason in the 40s and 50s. There had been other times throughout history. You know, they have Egyptian hieroglyphics where they show people with shriveled limbs, and scientists think that that was probably polio that they had way back in Egyptian times. But here in the United States, it really peaked in the 40s and 50s. Probably our peak year, we had 47,000 cases of polio. Communities were terrified of polio. You know, it's one thing if the adults are getting sick, but it's really horrible if the young children are getting sick. So another interesting thing about polio, it's a summertime disease. So once it would start getting to be polio season, communities would close their swimming pools. They might close their movie theaters. Sometimes they would close churches. I've talked to families where they're, you know, people say, yeah, my mother would never let me go outside to play in the summertime because we were scared of polio. People really were scared of it. They didn't know what it was, and they didn't know how to prevent it. Now, this is the guy I mentioned a little bit before. He's the most famous polio victim we've ever had. His name is Franklin Roosevelt, and he was President of the United States. Now, he actually got polio as a young adult. And that was really bad news for Roosevelt, right? He got polio. But if you think about it, it was great news for the rest of us. And the reason is, Roosevelt was rich, okay? And he decided, this is not a good deal to have polio. You know what? I'm going to try to make it to where we can find a cure or at least a vaccine or at least treatment for polio. And he started an organization called the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis. And that's another name that polio used to be called. You don't hear it much anymore. Well, nobody's heard of that foundation, but almost everybody has heard of their fundraising arm, which was called the March of Dimes. And the March of Dimes was an incredibly successful organization. In fact, it was the blueprint for a lot of charities that we have today. They would get celebrities to represent the March of Dimes. A lot of times in movie theaters, they'd stop the movie halfway through and pass the hat through the movie theater to collect money. I see some heads nodding out there, and people remember this. Probably the most important thing, though, that the March of Dimes was used for was to fund the vaccine studies. And there were really two approaches to vaccines. The first was the approach used by Dr. Jonas Salk. And this approach used a dead polio virus. You know, every vaccine kind of works the same way. It tricks your body into generating antibodies. And the way that the Salk vaccine worked, they used dead polio virus. It was injected with a hypodermic needle, and it was like a miracle. Okay, cases, we had 47,000 cases. I can't remember which year. It started cutting it in half every year. And by the 1960s, we were down to about 1,000 cases a year. Dr. Salk was a national hero, and deservedly so. But there was another approach, and this gentleman's name is Dr. Albert Sabin. Dr. Sabin used an approach that had a live polio virus in it. The most important thing about this vaccine, though, it was given orally versus through a hypodermic needle. And if you think about it, that's what makes all of our mass immunizations that we do possible. I don't know about you, I'm very comfortable. When we went to India, we just put 2 drops of something that tasted like sugar in the kid's mouth, and then we gave them a little mask to play with. Well, they were lined up around the street. I mean, they wanted to do that. It would be a different story if I was standing there with a hypodermic needle, and by the way, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that anyway. So this is really what has enabled these mass immunization campaigns that we've put in place. So how did Rotary get involved? Well, the very first program we had was in 1979, and someone got the audacious idea of let's try to vaccinate all of the children in the Philippines. And it worked beautifully. In fact, Dr. Sabin was involved in that campaign. So in 1985, we started Polio Plus. And Polio Plus, the name comes from, we're focusing on polio, plus eventually other diseases as well. We started with a $120 million pledge to work with the World Health Organization and really come with a plan to eradicate polio everywhere in the world. A few years later, the Polio Global Eradication Initiative was formed. And I put this slide up because, Rotary is not working alone on this. Okay, we work with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. Those are the original 4. Later, we were joined by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and by the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. I always have to remember that. So there's a lot of organizations that work together. And to me, if you think about it, this is one of the things I like best about the whole program. Polio, as well as other problems that our world faces, these are not problems between countries, right? These are problems across the world that require countries to work together on. And one of the most important things about Polio Plus is that we've put a blueprint in place that allows that to happen. And a lot of what we've done with polio, for example, that same structure was used for COVID. And going forward, I think it's going to be used to eradicate a lot of other diseases. As my good friend Bill Gates says, we are this close to eradicating polio, and it's a little bit sad. Bill and Melinda's marriage, it didn't work out. Y'all have probably heard the news. They split up. But the good news is they're still matching everything we donate 2 to 1. So if you donate $100 to Polio Plus, Bill and Melinda kick in $200 more. So in effect, everything you donate is tripled. That's not a bad deal. Okay, so what can you do to be a part of it? There's 3 things. 1, you can become a polio champion club. 2, you can join the 5790 Polio Society. And 3, you can participate in the Crazy Kicker bike ride. You can do that even if you personally do not ride a bike. And I'm going to tell you how. First of all, what is a polio champion club? Very simple. Clubs that average $25 per member are designated as a polio champion club. And when you win that designation, I'll come back and I'll present you this beautiful banner. Now, wouldn't this look great hanging on the podium? I don't have a place to hang it right now, but Last year, 27 clubs in our district became polio champion clubs. So one thing I'd like to challenge, this is a wonderful club. One thing I'd like to challenge y'all to do is try to earn that distinction this year. And all it takes is an average of $25 per member. And President Courtney can set that up. You may have already done this as a goal on Rotary Club Central. So that's one of the things you can look forward to this year. There we go. We've talked about that. Okay, next, we implemented something called the District 5790 Polio Society. And this is for individual Rotarians who donate a minimum of $100 a year. And last year, we had 11 Fort Worth Rotarians reach this milestone. So, if you see your name on this list, I would invite you to come forward at this time, and I'm going to present you with a beautiful End Polio Now challenge coin. So if your name is on the list, please come forward. All right. Jason, I know you're here somewhere. There he is. There we go. Sure, there you go. And by the way, I have a few coins extra if anybody has $100 in their pocket. I mean, what the heck? You might as well get one today. All right. Honestly, to everybody on that list, thank you. There were 281 Rotarians in our district that became Polio Society members last year. And it is really important that we keep the word going. And I'm just very thankful for those 11 that came forward. Okay, last but not least, each year we try to put together some kind of a district fundraiser just to give you an opportunity to publicize polio and raise some funds. This year it is going to be called the Crazy Kicker Bike Ride. It is in beautiful Mineral Wells, and here's how it's going to work. First of all, we're trying to get one or more representatives per club. And guess what? I have some great news for you. President Courtney has already signed up. So she's going to be riding, here we go. She's going to be riding 22 miles in the Crazy Kicker Bike Ride. Courtney has already set up a fundraising page. And if you take a look at your table, there should be a few handouts there. There's 3 parts to that. They have squiggly little QR codes on them. Okay, and we didn't have enough for everybody, but if you take a look, there are 3 QR codes on there, and you can do one of 3 things, or you can do all 3. It's not exclusive. If you would like to ride your bike in the Crazy Kicker, and I'm seeing a lot of people nodding their heads right now, you can register for that ride with the top QR code, or you can just type it in rotarycrazykicker.com. Second, if you would like to set up your own fundraising page to raise money for polio, and you can do that whether or not you're a bike rider, that's the second QR code. It's called raise.rotary.org/District 5790 Polio. And it's on the handout, so you don't have to memorize it. And third, if you say, you know, John, I don't want to ride a bike, I don't want to set up a page, but Courtney's pretty good. I'm going to help her meet her goal. Well, you use the third QR code or the third address that's there. I think it's raise.rotary.org/Courtney/Lewis. Okay? And as y'all sit here, you know, you could do this right now before you leave the meeting. Now, here's how it works. When you go to Courtney's fundraising site, you'll see a little blurb about why she's doing this. and then there's a button to donate to polio. When you donate, it's going to accumulate and help Courtney meet her goal, but individual Rotarians who donate get their own Paul Harris credit, and the donations you make roll into, in other words, the Fort Worth Downtown Club gets credit for that also. So anything donated on Courtney's site goes toward that $25 per member. Okay, that's kind of what the page looks like. That's a bunch of us that wrote a couple years ago. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. Okay, now what if I really want to help, but I can't make it that weekend, or I'm really not that athletic? Well, it's no problem. You can still set up your personal fundraising page if you want to. I spoke at a club recently, and one of the members told me that their Uncle George had polio as a child, and that they're not going to ride a bike. They have no interest in that, but they're going to set up a page. They would like to raise money in honor of their Uncle George. No sweat. You can go right out to the club, to the website. You can set up your own page, tell your own story, and then, just like we've done with the handout, you can distribute your fundraising page to your family, your friends, your club members, etc. So, that's about it. 3 ways you can help fight polio. Number 1, really focus on becoming a polio champion club. It's $25 per member. A club like this can do it easily. Second, think about donating $100, and I'll give you one of these challenge coins. Anybody out here plays golf? I'll tell you what, these are great ball markers. And somebody always asks me, what is that thing? Well, it's a polio deal. Let me tell you about Rotary. And it works, I tell you. And finally, you can participate in the Crazy Kicker bike ride, or at a minimum, donate at least $25 to President Courtney. Okay, as a reminder, Bill and Melinda still match everything 2-to-1. And the last thing I want to point out, just because some people get confused about this, Polio Plus is part of the Rotary Foundation. And a lot of clubs, there's really 2 main parts of the foundation that most clubs donate to. One is Polio Plus, and as I've said, Bill and Melinda match that. The other is the annual fund. And if y'all do every Rotarian every year, that's the annual fund. The 2 are both part of the Rotary Foundation, but they're separate buckets. So it's important to donate to both of them. Polio Plus is the part that I'm talking about that gets matched 2-to-1 by Bill and Melinda, but the annual fund is the one where when y'all do district grants or global grants, that's the money that comes back to your club from the annual fund. I say that so that you still keep doing both, but every now and then I'll talk to somebody and they'll say, look, I know I gave $100, why didn't I get a coin? Well, you gave it to the annual fund, which is a wonderful thing to do. Anyway, that's about it. If anybody has any questions, I don't have an H in John, rotaryjohn@gmail.com. Oh, last thing I'll mention, I have a group of folks, there's probably about 8 of us, that have a particular interest in polio. And we have a conference call about once a month and just review the worldwide status of polio. They also help me go around to places like Abilene and Wichita Falls and give this presentation. So if anybody that here has a particular interest in polio and would like to join our team, just see me right afterwards. Last but not least, this is looks like a professional picture, doesn't it? I took this picture of these kids in India. And one thing that struck me about this, you know, those could be kids in Fort Worth or Colleyville or South Lake or Mineral Wells or Sanderson. You know, wherever you go, the kids always act the same. They always kind of moon for the camera and act silly. And this one guy on the left has nothing to do with it. But this is one of the things I love about the polio effort. We're helping kids all over the world, and they're just like our kids. Anyway, that's all I got. So any questions, see me afterwards. Oh, you have, okay, do we have time for some? Okay, sure.
Based on the map that you showed earlier, are all the funds collected being sent to Pakistan and Afghanistan right now? I guess that would be the case.
That's a good question. The answer is no, and the reason I say that is if you think about it, all it takes to just reignite the whole pandemic again is somebody from an infected country traveling to a non-affected country. So the most recent country that was declared polio-free was Nigeria. But we are still vaccinating kids all over the world to keep those vaccinations up. Y'all might not know this, but kids in the U.S. are still vaccinated against polio, even though it really was eradicated here, I think, in 1979. We still immunize kids in the United States, and we still have national immunization days in India. You know, this is a real interesting thing. All of the countries have different cultural aspects. And in Afghanistan, it's a heavily Muslim country, and now especially with the Taliban, it's challenging. But rather than do mass immunization days where everybody would come out and line up, the most effective way in Afghanistan was for individual workers to go door to door. And usually these workers were female. And the reason is the person that was going to answer the door was probably the woman of the house, and she was the one that was taking care of the kids. So in a lot of these cultures, the men and women don't necessarily address each other directly a lot of times. So it was a very effective way in Pakistan and Afghanistan to distribute the vaccines. Well, the Taliban has come along and said, no, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do immunizations in the mosque. So it kind of remains to be seen how that's going to work. But it just underscores the fact that we have to keep these vaccinations going, particularly in the surrounding areas, to keep a lid on polio. So far, at least what the Taliban have said, my understanding, is they're going to continue the immunizations. They're just going to do it a different way. So we'll have to see how that turns out. That was a long answer. Yes? All right. Do we have 10 others? Oh my gosh, look at this. Oh, wow. Well, this is amazing. I didn't bring that many coins, but hey, that is wonderful, and a very easy way to do that. On the handout on your table, go to Courtney's page. You can do it you just do it by credit card, and it's fast. I know. There you go. Yeah. Did you already do it? All right. Anybody else do it yet? All right. So it's very easy to do this, folks. Was it Jim? Jim, thank you so much. And everybody else, I secretly recorded your name. I can see your name tags from here. So please do that, though. It's such a big deal. And I will come back with everybody's coin just because I don't have enough for everyone. You got one for me. Oh, I got one for you. You're the leader of the pack, man. Yes. Oh, yes. What was the first thing you said? When we're raising funds through Rotary, are we raising them for vaccines, research? What are we raising for? The question was, when we raise money through Rotary, where does the money go? And it goes a couple of different places. One is some of it goes for vaccines. Some of it goes for the supplies that the teams have to use. The polio vaccine, just like we had with COVID, you have to keep it cold. So in India, when we were going around, we carried these little cases, and it's really pretty cool. The vaccine, the bottle actually turns a different color when the vaccine gets too warm, and that way you know to quit using that particular vial. The other thing that is in place all over the world is a testing process. So we have hundreds of testers that basically are testing the water supply in all of these countries, and that's really how they know, is there a chance of polio in this community? So it goes to support all of those things. Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, there are big teams of people working on this, and it's going to be enormous when polio is finally eradicated. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, John. A little gift
All right.
in honor of your speech today.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, everybody, for your donations. I've never ridden a bike that far, so we may need a search party. And Jim Austin, thank you, Jim Austin Online, for your pledge and your encouragement to the rest of the group. You get a shout out from the mic. Couple closing announcements here. We want to thank our sponsors, Tarrant County College District Foundation, and also the Vincent Genovese Memorial Foundation Scholarships Program. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for sponsoring this program today. And if you would also like to be a sponsor of another program, Mark Maurer is here somewhere. See Mark, he will take your money. And I believe that is it. Our next week's program will be Sharon Light, CEO of the Vitamin Shop, and she is bringing goodies, so you'll want to come back and get a gift. We are adjourned.